Okay, I want to look at applying motion, not motion, but depth of field to a motion production in Cinema 4D. Now we looked earlier at applying depth of field to a still image and using the built-in rendering capabilities in Cinema 4D. Whenever you're applying it to motion, you're going to probably want to create a different pass, what's called a multi-pass render, and you'll actually apply the motion blur in another package, something like After Effects or another post-production software. So I've got a file ready. And it's just a series of spheres that are animated, so you can see them moving back and forth on the page. I've also got a camera that has a target, and that target is in line. We'll look from a different view here. Let's say the right view. And you can see that that camera is in line with the center sphere. Something else to look at is the depth settings. So if I go under depth, you can see I've got front and rear blur checked. That's something you will have to check manually. And you'll also notice that the front or the rear blur is located just behind my back object, and the front blur is located just in front of my front object. So it's very important that you use those settings because the space between the center point and this point, center point and this point, is what's used to calculate depth and blur for your scene. So let's look at the front view again, the perspective view. I'm going to go ahead and animate my blur. So it's going to start off as it is right now. I'm going to be focused on this center sphere. I'm going to make it so that it goes to focus on the rear back sphere and then moves to focus on the front sphere. So let's say at 140 seconds, I want my camera target to be on the rear sphere. So I'm going to go ahead and initiate automatic keyframing. And on frame 140, I'm going to just move this back to that point. And let's say at frame 240, I want to have it focus back on the front sphere instead. So we'll see what that does. So right now we've got our focus starting in the middle, going here, and then moving to the front. Okay, so we'll be able to see what that action looks like. And just to make it a little bit more interesting, I'm going to go ahead and make the motion happen a little bit more quickly. I'm going to copy frame 0 so it's a little closer. I'm going to copy the second frame, and I'm just holding that control and dragging in the timeline so it's a little closer as well. So what we see now is we're basically focused on the middle one, and then we quickly zoom to the back one, and then we quickly zoom to the front one. Okay? And just to make this work more smoothly, I'm going to go ahead and view the tracks on my target object, or show the F-curves for my target object. And then on all of those frames that are exactly the same, this one, those two, as well as these two, I'm going to apply a 0 angle, so the motion's a little bit more smooth. So now you'll notice when I move the camera, it's not moving, it's not moving. Okay, now it's moving and it stops. And now it's moving and it stops. And that's what I want. I'm looking at the right window on the lower left panel. Okay. So now that we've got our depth settings set up, I'm going to go ahead and turn off my automatic keyframing. And now we're going to look at our render settings, check our outputs. We're saving all frames. That's great. That's the size I want to render. Wonderful. Save. Okay. Well, that's great. And there's one more thing we need to check. Rather than just saving an image, we need to save a separate pass, or doing multi-pass rendering. So I'm going to check this multi-pass button. And I'm also going to go down here to multi-pass, go down to the very bottom and select depth. That'll be the additional channel I want to render, depth. Now when I go under my Save menu, I'm going to uncheck Regular Image, because multi-pass rendering is going to save always an RGB image, which is what the regular image would be, as well as the separate depth pass. So you can sort of look at it as multi-pass, as RGB, and whatever's underneath this is going to be a separate image. So I'll set my save right here to save a PNG. You can save a Photoshop file, you can save a TIFF, something that's really not compressed. A PNG is not very compressed. I have compression turned off. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. I've given it a name, a location, DOF with motion blurring. And you can see I've already rendered some right here. I'm going to go ahead and click Save, and we'll render. Do I want to overwrite what I've already done? Yes, I'll go ahead and do that. So you'll notice over here in the side channel, if you're on the Layer tab and click on Single Pass, you can actually click back and forth. And notice now I'm looking at my depth channels being rendered. You can see the one in front is very white, the one in back is pretty white, and right behind that back one is 100% white. Right in front of the front one is 100% white. And that directly relates to the placement of the target object and the front and rear blurs. So keep that in mind. And we will, through the magic of television, fast forward to After Effects.